Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Kelly. This is the second chapter of videos that I'm putting up on YouTube, which cover spirituality in general, and for which chapter one was a bit long. That was the introduction, and I didn't put in it quite a few things that I wanted to cover. So this is really the end of, or the second part of that chapter, in which I want to cover some aspects of being a human being which involve really sensitive spiritual terminology. And forgive me if the words that I use are not the ones that you're used to. I will state briefly what I mean when I use the words soul or ego, for example, or karma, and just cover those briefly before I get to the end of the video. So, human beings were born, and there are several spiritual components to us. And again, this is my take on it. This is not, strictly speaking, the Word of God. I'm sure that there's just a little bit more to who we are as human beings than what I'm able to articulate here. The soul is that part of God that we have, which is specific and unique to us and different from all others, and which has a spiritual nature. It's when we say I, for myself, we are referring not only to our physical body, but that which is within us, which comes from God and has an identity of sorts. It has opinions, values, you name it. We also have an aspect of negativity within us, and let's just call that the ego. And I do not intend to start a huge discussion of what that means. I mean, by all means, have whatever discussions you want. But these are the words that I use, and this is what I take them to mean when I say the word ego. It's individually for each one of us that we have an aspect of negativity. We have this negative force within us, and I'll get into very briefly why in just a moment. And then we have that part of it. So we've got the soul, we've got the ego, and then we've got that part of God in us that is part of the basic infrastructure. I think that the problematic one for most people is that the word ego is used out there in the public as who we are, who I am as an individual. I'm referring to my ego. And the part that comes from God is often neglected, and that the fact that those two are in conflict a lot of the time internally is what produces things like good choices, bad choices, choices which seem bad right now but turn out to be good later on, and so on and so forth. The reason for the ego being present is, to use an analogy, if we take a look at a runner, an athlete, a runner who runs 800 meters, and then look at the same runner who has to cover the same 800 meters, except the course has hurdles that have to be overcome. You have to jump, you have to clear them, you have to knock them over and not get injured. The analogy here is the type of muscle which is built and the type of exercise regimen and the type of application, how the human being applies themselves to that sport. When they run 800 miles and they have to jump over hurdles, different muscles get used. Some muscles that are not used necessarily when you're just running 800 meters straight, as opposed to the muscles that you need in order to synchronize a jump and maintain your speed and not get injured and not knock the hurdles over. So that's an analogy, and enough of the analogy. The ego's job, as far as I can tell, is to provide us with opportunities to go the wrong way. As a matter of fact, I think that most of what we have going on in our mind in regards to whether or not we should do something comes from ego. And so the soul, which actually makes the final choice whether to do something or not, has the benefit of both the positive guidance as well as the negative guidance. And the way we learn how to deal with life is by making mistakes or listening to our elders and doing what they say, which is something I've never done. So I don't know about you, but when we experience it with ourselves and make a mistake, we actually have to then make a better decision, a better choice later on. So we do something and it doesn't turn out too well because of the ego. And for the next time, let's say 10 years later, we come up with a similar situation, and we remember. Believe me, the mistakes we made, we remember. It's an opportunity to say, this time I'm going to go left. I'm not going to go right, and see what happens. Maybe it'll turn out better. So that's the job of the ego, I think, in life. As a generalization, of course, it's not true 100% of the time for each and every person on the human plane, but as a generality, yes, we have one, and it's not necessarily the nicest of things to have once, and I'm sure many of you know, most of you know this, once you start recognizing that you did something wrong that didn't turn out well, maybe it hurt somebody, you're going to do things differently next time, and that's the human experience. That's the way we operate as human beings. So, except that I don't see ego as a very positive term. It does some cringeworthy things sometimes. And then we have God. We have our soul, and we have God within us. So, karma, that one of my own spiritual guides in life, who is no longer with us, would call it the divine law of retribution, which I thought was, at the time I thought that term was a bit strong. But the thing is, if we start looking and being very honest with ourselves at what we do and how we do it, and what we say and how we say it, and what is our intent and purpose as we do certain things, we start recognizing the work of the ego. Our soul, there's a certain level of innocence in our soul that I swear prevents us from seeing right from wrong sometimes. But the ego is always there to come up with a whole bunch of suggestions, none of which are any good. And the whole thing with karma is to go through life and simply go through life with our own karma, the set of characteristics of who we are as a soul, what the ego is constantly trying to get us to do, and that's life in most respects. And again, yes, I could talk for a week and still not come to the end of what needs to be said about this, but let's not do that. I do, after all, want you to experience how wonderful this video is. Okay, Andrew, erase this little part. It's not very funny. And the soul, ego, and God, human beings, and karma. These, for the time being, are all the things that I wanted to go over briefly before we come to the end of the video. And that brings me to the other point, which is, it's been an interesting experience watching how this video is treated using the YouTube mechanism. And I've said this before, I think, I'm not sure if this was part of the first video, is that I really appreciate YouTube for what they do. Yes, they have a racket where they try to get people to constantly be posting videos and get the likes and subscribes and all that. I do not participate, and that gives me an opportunity to feel like I'm above all that. If only I knew, right? But the way YouTube works, what I need, if you would oblige me, is either comments or direct feedback, and my email address is in the description below this video. I really need the feedback, because that's where that's the information I'm going to mine about what to talk about next. If at all. I mean, maybe, oh, you're full of you know what, and enough of that. I have no idea how people receive these videos, and it would be nice to get some feedback. And I don't mean to be too direct or too offensive. I don't need the validation that comes from being subscribed to or liked even. Is that I really need the information that you can give me about what you think. And please be very forthcoming and as sincere as you wish to be. I sincerely hope I don't live to regret those words. It's also been fun making the videos, but if they completely rub people the wrong way, I don't really mind it if people are actually getting value out of it. But if it's too much in any direction, I want to learn that, and I want to learn, perhaps change things, whatever. I never change my opinion, so forget that one. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, and see you on the next one. Bye-bye.